Lease Purchase Programs. There's quite a few of them out there, and a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about them. In my opinion, I think a lot of people don't really understand them, and so I'm going to try and clear the air a little bit. When you do a lease purchase program, some companies might have a 2-year program, some might have a 3-year program. Some may have a balloon note at the end. Some may let you just keep renewing the lease until you have it paid off. There's a lot of different ways. But let me try to put it in the simplest terms that I know. For many years, especially when our kids were small, I kept my wife in a lease vehicle. And the reason for that was that she would get a new one every 3 years. And so we would lease the vehicle with 15,000 mile annual mileage on it. They customarily come with about 10, but you can factor it at a higher mileage. But we put 15,000 miles a year on it, so 45,000 miles, you turn the car in, get another one brand new that's still under warranty. Or when you sign that lease, at the end of it, there is a residual value of what they call a fair market value if you want to buy it. And so let's say that you lease a vehicle and you pay on it for 3 years. It's got 45,000 miles, and while you like the automobile, they have that purchase price, that predetermined purchase price at $50,000. Would you pay $50,000 for a 3-year-old vehicle with 45,000 miles? Probably not. Lease purchase programs work much the same way. You have a lease term that you're leasing that vehicle from the company, and you're going to also have, aside from your vehicle lease, you're also going to have a lease agreement where you're leasing the tractor on to their company to run under their authority, and they're going to get you all your loads. You pay so much a week, every single week, and then at the end of that lease, say it's a 2-year lease or a 3-year lease, at the end of that lease, you can either A, walk away from it, B, buy it out, or C, renew the lease for another term, or get another vehicle and lease it. Now, the benefits to leasing, for example, going back to my wife's vehicle, if I used her vehicle for business, I needed to note my mileage, where I started, where I ended, what the beginning mileage was, what the ending mileage was, what was the purpose of the business use, things like that, and keep that record so that I can give that to my accountant at the end of the year. So I'm watching this guy over here. So if you're leasing your tractor for 2 years, 3 years, whatever, and it's 100% for business, you still need to keep that mileage record. You still need to note the date, where you started, if you're deadheading or loading, where you started, where you went to pick up the load, what your beginning and ending mileage was for that leg of it, and then where you delivered the load, the date, and what your ending mileage was. And you keep all of that along with fuel receipts and repair receipts, things like that. You write all that off on your taxes at the end of the year. You have to have those records. Now, leasing a vehicle is much the same as buying or owning the vehicle. You still have to maintain it. You still have to, put tires on it, handle the repairs, etc., etc. Some companies at the end of your lease, they will have financing arranged for you with a local bank or something like that, so that you're actually buying the vehicle. And it might be, a 12-month loan. It might be 18, 24, maybe even 36-month loan, depending on the carrier and what kind of deal they can set up with local lending. Some will even personally guarantee the loan to the bank for you if it's necessary. It can be a good opportunity, a clear path to ownership for some. But in order for a lease purchase to work for you, you need to understand it. You need to take the time, read over that lease agreement, ask questions, of the carrier, ask questions of an attorney if need be. You have to understand what you're getting into. You have to understand the ins and outs, how it works. And then look at your lease agreement with the carrier, because they're two separate agreements. All right, so your lease agreement with the carrier works much the same way that if you own your truck and you want to lease on with that carrier and run under their authority and use their trailers, it's the same lease. All right, they're going to take care of your IFTA for you. They're going to want to get your base plates for you and all of these things, and all of that costs you. So they're going to take that out of your settlement every single week. So much a week. A lot of these companies, especially if you're on a lease, they're going to require a maintenance fund, and you're going to pay so much into that maintenance fund until it reaches X amount, and that covers your oil changes, that covers tires, that covers all these different things. And whenever they make a repair to your truck for you, or they pay for a repair for you, well, then they're going to start taking that money back out of your settlement again to replenish that maintenance fund to keep it at the level that it needs to be at. So lease purchase, they're not all bad. Some are just outright scams that they're just trying to rip you off. Others are a clear path to ownership. I've talked with guys that are with like John Christner that have actually, I think they had to pay a $1 buyout at the end of their lease. They had like a 3-year lease, and at the end of the lease they had a $1 buyout, and now they own their truck. I've talked to guys and girls that are with R.E. Garrison who have finished their lease and were getting set up on the loan to finance the buyout. I've talked to others from other companies, and each company has its own thing. And ATS, for example, I think they have a 2-year lease purchase, but if you take the time to review the lease agreement, ask questions, and make sure you have a clear and complete understanding of that lease and how it works. Same thing with your lease agreement where you're leasing the truck onto the carrier. I think you'll see that it can be a useful and valuable tool. Anytime you can work off of someone else's money, that helps you. And in a sense, doing that lease purchase, you're working off of someone else's money because you're not going out putting out the money to buy the truck right now, and you're not having to put out, set aside $20,000 or whatever the case may be to handle any kind of breakdowns that may occur. When you're independent, you have no safety net. You have to fund everything yourself, and that's great for some people, but other people may not be in that kind of a position. So I'm not going to badmouth lease purchase. A lot of people will, but I'm going to tell you that it can be a useful tool, and it can offer you a clear path to ownership. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. So again, just take your time, educate yourself on what it is before you put yourself into it. All right, I got to get rolling. I'll see you guys down the road.